I must sound the alarm. We are in the last days, and because of that, I must sound the alarm. Because many of you are asleep. Many of you are not paying attention. And many of you just do not know. You're unaware of how close we are to the day of Yahuwah. Do you know the number of times that I've spoken to many people out there? And when we talk about the end days and the things that's going on in the news, they would make this statement. They would say, no, I don't think that we're in the last days. I don't think that we are near the day of Yahuwah. I don't think that we're near the book of Revelations. I think that we're nowhere near it. Do you know the number of times I've heard people say this? Well, I'm hoping that these statistics and the things that I'm about to show you will wake you up and make you realize just how close we are. Because the end days are here, and the time of Yahuwah, the day of Yahuwah, is at hand. And I think that once you see these images and these videos that I'm about to show you, you're going to realize just how close we are. Now, I want to share some scriptures with you. And some of these things we've talked before. But, you know, natural disasters are becoming the new norm. Now, it's a reason why we're seeing more natural disasters. And I want to prove it to you that according to the scripture prophesied about natural disasters increasing in the last days, which proves that we are in the last days. And so I want to share a couple of things with you because we've talked before. We've talked about how the water is turning red all over the world. You have these different bodies of water that have been turning red. We've shown pictures of that. And we've talked about how the scripture mentions in Revelation 16, verse 12, it says, "And the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared." Well, if you view the river Euphrates to this day, it has dried up. And many people are just not aware of it because we are being distracted. And this information they do not want you to know. The things I'm about to show you, they don't want you to know. They want to keep you distracted, right? They want to keep you distracted with all this internet food. Internet candy is what I call it. They want to keep you distracted with the social media, keep you distracted with all these things that's going on. They want to keep you distracted so you don't see that we are right at the door. So, I want to share this scripture with you. Now, as I pointed out, it talked about the sixth angel that poured out his vial upon the Euphrates River, and the river was dried up, right? Well, if you keep reading Revelation chapter 16, and you go down to verse 17, pay attention to what it says here. This is Revelation 16, and we're going to go down to 17, and we're going to read 17 through 21. And this is what it says. "And the angel poured out his vial upon the air, and there came a great voice out of the temple of heaven from the throne saying, 'It is done.' And there were voices and thunders and lightnings. And there was a great earthquake, such as was not since men were upon the earth. So great an earthquake, and so great. And the great city was divided into 3 parts, and the cities of the nations fell, and the great Babylon came in remembrance before Yahuwah, to give unto her the cup of the wine of the fierceness of his wrath. And every island fled away, and the mountains were not found. And there fell upon men a great hail out of heaven, and every stone about the weight of a talent. And men blasphemed Elohim because of the plague of the hail, for the plague thereof was exceedingly great. Now, what I want you to understand is the scripture prophesied about a great earthquake coming, and that this great earthquake would come in the latter days. Well, what I want to show you here is a very interesting graph about natural disasters and the earthquakes that have happened over the last few years. Okay, this graph here shows you how many earthquakes have happened and how they have increased since 1900 to 2012. And as you can see on this graph here, this graph shows you that these earthquakes have increased greatly since the last 100 years. And particularly over the last 30 years, they have increased greatly. This is a sign of what is to come, because the scripture prophesied that a great earthquake would come. But the scripture also prophesied that there would be these labor pains, right? These labor pains that would come like a woman that's travailing with child, that these labor pains would start off slow and they would get greater and greater and greater. These earthquakes prove that we are yet right at the door of the day of Yahuwah. Now, I want you to understand this because it's so important that you get this, right? Now, there's a scripture in Isaiah. This is Isaiah chapter 24, verse 3 through 12. And this is what it says. The land shall be utterly emptied and utterly spoiled, for Yahuwah hath spoken his word. The earth mourneth and fadeth away. The world languisheth and fadeth away. The haughty people of the earth do languish. The earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed ordinances, broken the everlasting covenant. Therefore have the curse devoured the earth. They that dwell therein are desolate. Therefore the inhabitants of the earth are burned, and few men left. The new wine mourneth, the vine languisheth. All the merry-hearted do sigh. The mirth of tabrets cease, the noise of them that rejoice in them. The joy of the harp ceaseth. They shall not drink wine with a song. Strong drink shall be bitter to them that drink it. The city of confusion is broken down. Every house is shut up, that no man may come in. There is a crying for wine in the streets. All joy is darkened. The mirth of the land is gone. In the city is left desolation, and the gate is smitten with destruction. So as you can see, it talks about how things are going to be in the last days and how the earth is going to be burned up. We talked about the wildfires that's going on all over the earth, and how these wildfires have increased all over the earth. The wildfires have increased. And so what I want to show you here is another graph, okay? This graph is very interesting. If you look at this graph, it shows the disasters, the natural disasters that have happened since 1970 to 2019. That's the last 50 years. Now I want you to look at this. It's showing you how from floods to extreme weather to drought, extreme temperature, earthquakes, landslides, wildfires, volcanic activity. It shows you how all of these things have increased greatly just in the last 50 years, which again proves that we are closing in on the last days. We're closing in on the day of Yahuwah. This is why you got to wake up. This is why you can't be distracted. You got to get your house in order. You got to get your mind together. You got to get yourself right with the Most High. You got to seek Him, because these days are moving very fast. Now, this next graph that I want to show you is showing the historic activity of volcanoes over the last, I want to say, 600 years. Now, if you look at this, over the last 600 years, notice how these volcanoes have escalated. To the year of 2000, they have escalated, right? But pay attention here. What else have grown almost in the exact pattern? Pay attention. What else have grown? The population of the earth. Almost in the same pattern. Now you ask yourself, wow, that's interesting, because the population has grown in the same identical pattern, if you can see it here. Now watch this. Why do you think the population have grown so, and these volcanoes have increased at the same rate of the population? I'll tell you why. Because of sin. Because the more and more people that are born on this planet, sin increases greatly. And when sin increases greatly, judgment increases greatly. This is why you see this graph is almost identical. The population growth, the active volcanoes per year is identical. So, this is also another sign that the earthquakes are getting stronger and that we're getting close to the time of the great earthquake that the scriptures spoke about. Now, I want to show you something else here. This is the total of hurricane destruction that have come to the United States over the past 100 years. Notice the same pattern. Look at the increase all the way to the 2000s. It's the same exact thing that's going on. Now, I find it amazing because I want you to see this, right? Hurricanes take a path that comes from Africa, literally from the coast of Africa, and they work their way and build these storms. They work their way and they build over the Atlantic Ocean, and they take a path that heads right over to the West Indies and over to all of those different islands, and over also to the United States, over to the east coast of the United States. And so when you see this pattern, notice that it's also the same path of the Atlantic slave trade. Interesting, huh? One more thing I want to show you. Notice the path of Tornado Alley in the United States. You know, they're saying that there are more tornadoes that happen here in the United States than anywhere in the world. And the majority of these tornadoes happen in an area what they refer to as Tornado Alley. Now, if you look at Tornado Alley and follow the path of these tornadoes, notice that they take the same path as the Underground Railroad. Interesting, huh? Now, I said that to say this. The scripture makes it clear that Yahuwah sends the whirlwind. He sends the hurricane. He sends the tornado. He sends the earthquakes. He sends all this global natural disasters that we have seen that have taken place over the last 100 years. It is the Most High that is sending all of these things. And so we got to get a grip and understand, why is he doing this? He's doing this because of sin. He's doing this because of the sin against his people. This is why you're going to see these things. Now, it actually states this in Revelations. When you look at Revelations chapter 18, where it talks about the fall of Babylon, right? It talks about how Babylon is going to be destroyed, right? Well, in this part, notice at the end of chapter 18, it says in verse 23, and the light of the candle shall shine no more at all in thee. Talking about in Babylon. And the voice of the bridegroom and the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. For thy merchants were the great men of the earth, for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. And in her was found the blood of who? The prophets, the saints, and all that were slain upon the earth. So everybody that were slain upon the earth, it says the blood of all of these people that it mentioned was found in her. This is why the Most High is going to pour out all these plagues. This is why we're going to see an increase of these natural disasters. And this is why you got to get your eyes open. You got to pay attention. Listen to this scripture in Hosea. This is Hosea chapter 4, verse 1 through 3. Hear the word of Yahuwah, ye children of Israel. For Yahuwah have a controversy with the inhabitants of the land, because there is no truth, nor mercy, nor knowledge of Elohim in the land. By swearing and lying and killing and stealing and committing adultery, they break out, and blood toucheth blood. Therefore shall the land mourn, and every one that dwelleth therein shall languish, and the beasts of the field, and the fowls of the heaven, yea, the fish of the sea also shall be taken away. Again, this is showing you the things that are going to take place in the last days. The mass animal deaths that have been happening all over the world for the past 5 to 10 years, it has increased greatly. The mass animal deaths. From birds to the fish of the sea, animals are dying everywhere. Again, this is a prophecy that Yahuwah have put forth. Luke chapter 21. Now I'm going to leave you with this scripture. This is Luke chapter 21, verse 11. And great earthquakes shall be in divers places, and famines, and pestilence, and fearful sights, and great signs shall there be from heaven. So Yah's going to send all these great signs, and all these great things are going to come upon the earth, because Yah is punishing the earth because of all of the sins and all of the murder and the lying and all of the wickedness that have gone over the earth. The scripture talks about the sins of Babylon reaching unto heaven. This is why judgment must come from heaven. Wake up, family. This thing is getting close. This thing is serious. You have got to wake up. You have got to pay attention. You got to quit being distracted by all this stuff that's going on and get your house in order. On that note, I'm going to say shalom.
Be sure to ring the bell to be notified of new uploads on this channel, and also comment, share, like, and subscribe.